I've run a software consultancy for 3 years. My first client was worth about 8,000 USD. My most recent clients were worth about 70,000 and 100,000 respectively. My first client came for one project, where the duration of which was about 2 months, and my most recent clients have been back several times for many projects of many months. Keeping your clients for way longer is a great way to make a bunch more money from them, and you can keep them for way longer by reducing the uncertainty during your service. And this video is all about that. It's all about how to communicate throughout your service and how that can make a massive impact on how long you keep them. This video is just a dead simple breakdown of a 5-step framework that I've used to communicate with all clients, and it's made a massive impact. I've had literally clients come to me and say that my communication was so good, that's why they want to come to me again. I'll get right into it. The first thing is you want to pick a cadence. So monthly, weekly, daily, whatever it is, it depends on your service. The more frequently you do it, the better, but also the harder it is to upkeep that. I do weekly. I would recommend, I think for most people, weekly. I think that's a good place to start. Once you have your cadence, you want to pick your medium. So where are you delivering this over? I do, for example, Loom and written up in bullet points. You might write a report. You might do something more complex, less complex. I think videos are a really great way to do them. You can do private Loom videos. These aren't public. Like if you're scared of recording or whatever, it's not a big deal. You get used to it over time and it gives it more of a personal touch. And I think that's really nice. You need to have one or more platforms for asynchronous communication. So I'm only thinking about asynchronous stuff, not calls, not meetings. I'm thinking platforms to connect with people. It's either via text, video, or audio, essentially. You can send a voice note, you can send a Loom, you can send a write-up, whatever it is, but you got to pick one or more. And there's a reason for picking more than one, and I'll talk about that at the end. Once you have your communication frequency and your method, the next thing you need is essentially a centralized platform. I think it's really important to have one central place where your clients can find all the resources. All your weekly or monthly updates should be in this central repository. You can use pretty much anything for this. I use Notion, for example. You can use Google Docs. You can use any kind of thing that can be shared with a client, and you don't need to build out some custom fancy solution. I think there are some apps that try and do this, but I think people get way too fancy. You just want one place where you can dump resources and label them. That's basically the minimum requirement. So I use Notion because we use lots of Notion pages and tables and things, but there's one central page which just links to every single resource we produce. That page is essential for any documentation, any planning we do for the project, anything that goes on, it's dumped in there. And then week by week, right, which is our communication cadence, we have updates. And we send them those updates, but we also store them in that repository. It gives this level of accountability. When you pitch clients, you're like, listen, I will tell you every week what we're doing. And if you have any questions, you can always go back and see everything in your project HQ. You can always view all of the updates in this central repository that we create for you throughout this project. And that's a really important part of this. And lastly, basically, you want to send it off via some kind of communication channel that's regular. So if you talk to clients over WhatsApp, over Slack, whatever it is, I recommend trying to go with more professional things like Slack. That's what we use. Maybe use Teams, whatever, but just send it based on your cadence, send the document that you make them or the video, whatever the communication method you chose is. And then also always link to the central repository if they have any questions, any things like that. The last step isn't totally a part of this framework, but I think it's really important as well, which is basically also have a communication for some kind of feedback form. So make a really simple form that asks, what can we improve on and how likely are you to recommend us to your friend? Basically dead simple. You can make it more complicated if you want, that's up to you. And you want to send that feedback form one cadence level above whatever you pick. So, if you pick daily, if you send your communication daily, then you do weekly feedback. If you send your thing weekly, then you do monthly feedback, which is what we do. And that gives an opportunity for the client to also communicate proactively about how you can improve things. And I think this feedback form is extremely important for you to understand your client satisfaction. I think that's really important. People miss that feedback part, and I wish I implemented that earlier, if I'm honest. This whole framework that I gave you literally takes about 5 minutes to set up, and every single week I take like 5 to 10 minutes per client to do things. Like, it's really not that much work, but it makes such a big difference on the client side. They never come to me with questions. They never come asking, where's the project? How are things going? We're a little bit worried. The clients become way more relaxed because they know that they get regular updates on what's going on. And nothing drives somebody more crazy than not knowing where their money's going and what's happening. Imagine you go to a restaurant and you order something and you're there for an hour and your food still hasn't come and you're like, what the hell's going on? Maybe they're making an excellent meal for you, but you have no idea what's going on. And if you're the only person sat at the restaurant without their food, you're going to be stressed out of your mind because you're like, where the hell's my food? And you're going to ask for it and things like that. It's the same logic, like reducing the uncertainty, letting the client see into the kitchen and watch you as you cook the dish. It makes them way more confident in the work that you're producing because they can kind of monitor it throughout, and it just reduces the level of questions by a lot. At least this is what I found in my business. As a development company, like a lot of other development companies suck at communication, and that is where we absolutely crush. Making your clients happier, they will stay with you for longer, they will give you more referrals, they'll be worth more. That's probably one of the best things that I've done in this business. This is also fundamentally just a really good way of making your clients happier without necessarily increasing or changing your service delivery at all. You expend zero additional resources on fulfilling more for the client or doing any extra work. All you do is add this like 5 to 10 minute thing at the end of your week or your month or whatever it is, and it makes the experience so much better. It makes the client so much more relaxed. It reduces the uncertainty for them. That is literally worth extra dollars on the price. By doing so little extra work, you get so much added value for the client that I think it's extraordinarily worth it to implement something like this. At least it really has been in my experience. So anyway, I thought I'd share this. I haven't really put this out there anywhere, but I thought some people might find it useful, so I'd drop this. With that said, feel free to comment if you have any questions. I record every day and I try and read those. So I will try and make videos out of any good comments.